Nelson Mandela dies at 95 as political saint of South Africa. Nelson Mandela, whose successful struggle against South Africa's apartheid system of racial segregation and discrimination made him a global symbol for the cause of human rights and earned him the Nobel Prize, died Thursday. He was 95. Mandela spent 27 years in South African prisons before his release in 1990. He negotiated with the nation's white leaders toward establishing democracy and was elected South Africa's first black president in 1994, serving one term. He probably will be remembered both inside and outside South Africa as political saint, said Michael Parks, the former editor of the Los Angeles Times, who won a Pulitzer Prize in 1987 for his coverage of Mandela and South Africa's struggles. He had a flaws that he had to overcome. He had a temper he had to deal with. He had to deal with what was going to be life imprisonment. Not all his decisions were great decisions, but what political leaders are? Park said. Mandela's charisma, stoic optimism, and conciliation toward adversaries and oppressors established him as one of the world's most recognizable statesmen of the 20th century and a hero of South African democracy. If you want to make peace with your enemy, you have to work with your enemy, Mandela once said. Then he becomes your partner. He was born Rosasla Mandela in Metso, a village on the Eastern Cape of South Africa, in 1918. He was a member of the Xhosa-speaking Tembu tribe. He was baptized in the United Methodist Church by a teacher. His father, a counselor to the tribal chief, died when Mandela was 9. He was abducted by the chief and lived in the more sophisticated provincial capital, where he attended a Wesleyan mission school, learning English and excelling in track boxing. He studied law at University of Witwatersrand, after fleeing to Johannesburg to avoid a marriage arranged by the tribal agent. There he became involved in the anti-apartheid movement and in 1943 joined the African National Congress, where he became a leader in resistance against the ruling National Party and its apartheid policies. He was charged with treason in 1956 along with 155 other activists, but the charges were dropped. The government outlawed the ANC in the 1960, and Mandela went underground to work against the regime. Mandela veered from non-violence as a method for change and argued for setting up a military wing of the ANC and violent tactics to bring down apartheid. In 1971, Mandela became the leader of ANC Armed Wing, in which he oversaw bomb attacks against government buildings. He was designated a terrorist by the white government and arrested in 1962. In June 1964, he was sentenced, along with 7 others, to life in prison for plotting to overthrow the government through hundreds of acts of sabotage. He spent 18 years of his imprisonment at Robben Island Prison of Cape Town, where the harsh conditions included laboring in a lime quarry. During that time, he became the focus of an international campaign for release led by his lifelong friend and law partner, Oliver Tambo, and Mandela's wife, Winnie, whom he married in 1958 after his marriage to Evelyn Mays ended in 1957. In the 1980s, the ENC under Tambo ramped up bombing attacks to include civilian targets. In an attempt to calm the violence, President Botha offered in 1985 to free Mandela if he would renounce violence as a tool for change. Mandela refused. Demands for Mandela's release became a popular civil rights cause in the Western world in the 1980s, along with calls for an end to apartheid from the United States and other nations. Nelson Mandela's death prompted an outpouring of grief Thursday from world leaders and others who honored the beloved South African leader's life and legacy. Convicted of treason and sentenced to life imprisonment for leading a campaign of sabotage and conspiracy against the government, Mandela spent 27 years behind bars before he was freed in 1990. Yet he was able to help guide an anti-apartheid crusade, smuggling messages from the prison. As time passed, the long lonely wasted years, as he said, the international awareness of apartheid grew more acute. By the time Mandela turned 17, he was the world's most famous political prisoner and an icon of democracy, freedom and justice, winning a 1993 Nobel Peace Prize and serving as South Africa's first black president. In failing health for years and last seen in public in 2010, his death at 95 was not unexpected, but it saddened many who compared him to other civil rights leaders such as Martin Luther King and India's Mahatma Gandhi. President Barack Obama, who drew inspiration from Mandela's life, was effusive in his praise, saying he could not imagine his own life without the example Mandela set. He achieved more than could be expected of any man. We've lost one of the most influential, courageous, profoundly good people to be on this earth, Obama said. We will not likely see the likes of Nelson Mandela again. United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon called Mandela a giant for justice, whose selfless struggle for human dignity, equality and freedom inspired many people around the world. No one did more in our time to advance the values and inspiration of the United Nations, Ban said. Mandela also drew praise from several former US presidents. History will remember Nelson Mandela as a champion for human dignity and freedom, for peace and reconciliation, Bill Clinton said. We will remember him as a man of uncommon grace and compassion, for whom abounding bitterness and embracing adversaries was not just a political strategy but a way of life. Said George Bush, he was a man of tremendous moral courage, who changed the course of history in his country. Barbara and I had great respect for President Mandela. And his son George Bush said, President Mandela was one of the great forces for freedom and equality of our time. He bore his burdens with dignity and grace, and our world is better off because of his example. This good man will be missed, but his contribution will live on forever. NAACP Chairwoman Rosalie Brock said, Mandela embodied the hopes, dreams, aspirations and values of all who seek justice against tremendous odds.